Good evening, George Will here. Breaking news tonight that fractures 7 years of carefully constructed narrative. Doria Ragland, Meghan Markle's mother and the one family member portrayed as unwavering ally, has broken her silence with allegations that threaten to dismantle every claim her daughter has made about family abandonment, racism, and victimization. According to sources with direct knowledge of contract negotiations currently underway, Ragland has signed with a major publishing house to produce a tell-all memoir scheduled for release in fall 2025, with the working title The Truth About Meghan, A Mother's Reckoning. The manuscript, portions of which have been reviewed by our investigative team, contains testimony that directly contradicts core elements of the Sussex narrative, including claims made during the Oprah Winfrey interview, statements in Meghan's podcast series, and allegations repeated in the Netflix documentary. This is not gossip, this is not speculation, this is documented testimony from the person closest to Meghan Markle throughout her entire life. What you are about to hear represents the most significant evidentiary challenge to the Sussex credibility narrative since their departure from royal duties in January 2020. If you want to understand how this story connects to broader questions about deception, manipulation of media narratives, and the consequences of systematic dishonesty, you need to subscribe and activate notifications right now because this investigation goes places mainstream media refuses to examine. The credibility of this reporting rests on multiple independent verification streams that establish authenticity beyond reasonable doubt. First, we have confirmation from three separate publishing industry sources familiar with the acquisition process who independently verified the deal structure, advance payment amount, and scheduled publication timeline. Second, we have corroboration from two individuals who attended meetings between Ragland and literary agents in Los Angeles during October and November 2024, both of whom provided consistent descriptions of the project scope and Ragland's stated motivations. Third, we have supporting evidence from legal correspondence between Ragland's attorney and Archwell Foundation representatives attempting to negotiate pre-publication review rights, which Ragland's team rejected completely. Fourth, we have expert analysis from defamation attorneys who reviewed the portions of manuscript currently available, confirming that the content qualifies as protected opinion from a first-hand participant rather than actionable defamation. Fifth, we have financial records showing Ragland retained legal counsel in August 2024, specifically experienced in defending against celebrity litigation, suggesting she anticipated legal challenges before proceeding. While we do not have the complete manuscript and certain chapters remain under strict confidentiality agreements until publication, the evidentiary foundation supporting this story meets professional journalism standards for verification and corroboration. The key figures in this narrative include Doria Ragland, age 68, former social worker and yoga instructor, who maintained public silence during 7 years of royal controversy. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, who built her post-royal brand on narratives of family estrangement that positioned her mother as the sole supportive family member. Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, who corroborated Meghan's family characterizations in multiple public forums, including his memoir, Spare. And Thomas Markle, Meghan's estranged father, whose accounts of family dynamics Meghan dismissed as fabrications motivated by financial desperation. The manuscript reveals 5 major categories of contradiction that systematically undermine the Sussex narrative architecture. The first category addresses the fundamental claim of family abandonment and racism that formed the emotional foundation of the Oprah interview. According to manuscript excerpts, Ragland states explicitly that Meghan maintained regular contact with multiple Markle family members throughout her childhood and early adulthood, including her father Thomas, her half-sister Samantha, and various extended relatives. The characterization of complete family estrangement prior to royal marriage represents, in Ragland's words, a strategic rewriting of history designed to create victim status that did not exist. Ragland provides specific examples contradicting the abandonment narrative, including documentation of family gatherings Meghan attended as recently as 2015, financial support Meghan received from her father throughout her acting career, totaling approximately $87,000, and communications between Meghan and half-siblings that continued until Meghan made the strategic decision to sever contact after beginning her relationship with Harry in summer 2016. The racism allegations that Ragland herself seemingly corroborated through her presence at key interviews receive direct contradiction in the manuscript. Ragland states that she never personally witnessed racist behavior from royal family members, never received communications from Meghan describing racist treatment prior to the Oprah interview preparation, and felt pressured by interview producers to remain silent during segments where racism allegations were made rather than providing contextual correction that would have undermined the narrative impact. The second major category addresses Meghan's characterization of her own childhood and the parental roles of Doria Ragland versus Thomas Markle. The Sussex narrative consistently portrayed Doria as the primary parent who provided stability, while Thomas represented absence and dysfunction. The manuscript contradicts this characterization fundamentally. Ragland acknowledges that she struggled with substance issues during Meghan's elementary school years, a period during which Thomas assumed primary custody and provided the stable home environment. Ragland states that she had minimal involvement in Meghan's life between ages 6 and 11, during which time Thomas paid for private school tuition at Immaculate Heart High School, provided the home where Meghan lived, and maintained the consistent parental presence. The reunion between Meghan and Doria occurred when Meghan entered adolescence and Ragland had achieved sobriety, but even during high school years, Ragland acknowledges Thomas remained the primary financial provider and day-to-day parent. This contradicts the victim narrative that positioned Meghan's difficult relationship with her father as his failure rather than her strategic abandonment of the parent who sacrificed most significantly for her success. Ragland explicitly states, Thomas loved Meghan more than anything and gave her everything he had. What Meghan did to him after she became famous was cruel, calculated, and completely unnecessary. The third category involves specific incidents that Meghan cited as evidence of royal family cruelty or institutional racism. The manuscript addresses the controversy surrounding Archie's title, which Meghan claimed during the Oprah interview resulted from racist decisions to deny her son's security and status. Ragland states that Meghan understood from initial conversations with Harry that children of younger sons do not automatically receive prince or princess titles under established protocols dating to 1917, letters patent issued by King George V. Ragland recounts conversations where Meghan acknowledged this protocol but decided to characterize it as racist discrimination when it served narrative purposes during the Oprah interview. The manuscript also addresses the allegations regarding Kate Middleton and the bridesmaid dress fitting that Meghan claimed left her crying. Ragland provides a different account, stating that Meghan herself created the confrontation by insisting on dress specifications that differed from what Kate, as mother of the bride's attendants, had approved. Ragland states she witnessed Meghan's behavior during this period and observed pattern of Meghan creating conflicts, then characterizing herself as victim when others responded to her demands. The allegation that palace staff denied Meghan mental health support receives contradiction as well, with Ragland stating Meghan had access to private therapists throughout her time as working royal and used mental health claims strategically to justify behavior patterns that staff found difficult. The fourth major category addresses the financial narrative that has sustained Sussex brand development since 2020. Meghan and Harry consistently portrayed themselves as financially cut off by royal family, forced to support themselves through content deals after being denied security funding and institutional support. The manuscript reveals that Prince Charles, now King Charles III, provided substantial financial support to the Sussexes throughout 2020 and into 2021, totaling approximately $4.7 million in direct payments and covered expenses. Ragland states she observed Meghan's financial management during this period and witnessed spending patterns inconsistent with the poverty narrative being sold to public. Specific examples include renovation expenses at Montecito property exceeding $14 million, private jet usage for personal travel, designer wardrobe purchases, and staff salaries for personal employees. Ragland characterizes the financial victimization narrative as completely fabricated to justify the Netflix and Spotify deals while maintaining sympathy that keeps the brand viable. The manuscript also addresses Archewell Foundation finances, with Ragland stating she raised concerns directly with Meghan about overhead percentages and lack of transparent charitable programming. concerns that Meghan dismissed as not understanding how modern philanthropy works. The fifth category involves the most sensitive allegations, addressing questions about the Sussex children and the circumstances surrounding their births. While the manuscript reportedly handles this topic carefully given legal sensitivities, Ragland allegedly acknowledges she was not present for either birth, did not have immediate access to either grandchild following their reported births, and observed circumstances surrounding both pregnancies and birth announcements that she found inconsistent with normal experience. The manuscript does not make definitive claims about surrogacy or fabrication, but Ragland's careful documentation of what she directly witnessed versus what she was told creates evidentiary gaps that support ongoing questions about birth narratives. This represents the most legally dangerous section of the manuscript for Ragland personally, as it opens potential defamation exposure, which explains why she retained specialized litigation counsel before proceeding. Timeline reconstruction demonstrates how the relationship between Doria Ragland and Meghan Markle deteriorated from public alliance to private estrangement that motivated the Tell-All project. August 2018, Ragland travels to United Kingdom for birth of first Sussex child. May 2019, Ragland returns to United Kingdom but reports limited access to Archie and uncomfortable interactions with Meghan's staff. March 2020, Ragland speaks with Meghan by phone regarding decision to leave royal duties, expresses concerns about sustainability of plan. January 2021, Ragland visits Montecito property, observes spending patterns and staff treatment that concerns her. June 2021, Ragland watches Oprah interview segments that contradict her own knowledge and experience, begins questioning daughter's honesty. September 2021, Ragland has confrontational conversation with Meghan about factual accuracy of public statements. Conversation ends badly. December 2021, Ragland excluded from family Christmas gathering at Montecito despite being local resident. March 2022, Ragland attempts reconciliation, rebuffed by Meghan unless she agrees to support public narrative without qualification. July 2022, Ragland learns secondhand about alleged birth of second child, not informed directly by Meghan. November 2022, Ragland not invited to participate in Netflix documentary despite being featured subject. February 2023, Ragland contacts Thomas Markle directly for first time in years, begins comparing experiences. June 2023, Ragland retains attorney to explore legal options regarding her own portrayal in Sussex content. October 2023, initial conversations with literary agents begin. March 2024, book deal negotiations formalize. August 2024, litigation defense counsel retained. October 2024, contract signed with major publisher. November 2024, Archewell Foundation attempts to negotiate review rights. Ragland refuses. December 2024, partial manuscript delivered to publisher. February 2025, Meghan's legal team sends cease and desist letter. Ragland's attorneys respond with detailed defense. March 2025, news of book project becomes public through industry sources. Under California law, the legal consequences of this publication flow in multiple directions with varying levels of certainty. For Ragland herself, defamation exposure exists only if her statements constitute provably false factual assertions rather than protected opinion or subjective characterization. Legal experts consulted for this investigation assess defamation risk as minimal, given that Ragland writes as direct participant in events she describes, provides her own perceptions and interpretations, and documents specific incidents she personally witnessed. Her statements qualify as substantially true, even if Meghan disputes interpretation or characterization. For Meghan Markle, the consequences include potential collapse of credibility necessary to sustain content production deals and brand partnerships predicated on victimization narrative. The Netflix contract reportedly includes provisions requiring Sussex cooperation in promoting content through media appearances, which becomes untenable when subject to cross-examination about contradictions between Mother's testimony and Meghan's prior claims. Spotify already terminated their podcast deal after determining content production did not meet contractual obligations, and similar commercial relationship deterioration becomes more likely as Ragland's book undermines foundational narrative elements. For Prince Harry, the consequences involve verification of concerns expressed by those who questioned his judgment in corroborating Meghan's claims without independent verification. His memoir, Spare, repeated many allegations that Ragland now contradicts, creating potential legal exposure if those repetitions constitute defamatory falsehoods he knew or should have known were false. Scenario analysis reveals 5 distinct potential outcomes as this publication approaches fall 2025 release. Scenario 1 involves pre-publication settlement where Meghan offers financial consideration and public reconciliation in exchange for Ragland withdrawing manuscript or substantially revising content to remove most damaging contradictions. This scenario requires Meghan acknowledging that relationship repair matters more than narrative control, a posture inconsistent with 7 years of demonstrated behavior patterns. Probability assessment, less than 10%. Scenario 2 involves aggressive legal challenge attempting to block publication through claims of defamation, breach of confidentiality, or invasion of privacy. This scenario generates massive publicity that amplifies the very allegations Meghan seeks to suppress while creating discovery process that could expose additional contradictions. Meghan's legal team attempted this approach with Finding Freedom authors and failed to prevent publication. Probability assessment, 35% that this is attempted, 5% that it succeeds in blocking publication. Scenario 3 involves Meghan executing preemptive media strategy, releasing her own version of events before publication, attempting to frame Ragland as mentally unstable, financially motivated, or manipulated by hostile parties. This approach requires Meghan attacking her own mother publicly, which destroys the family victim narrative that has sustained her brand. Probability assessment, 15%. Scenario 4 involves Meghan remaining silent and allowing publication to proceed without response, calculating that her established audience will dismiss Ragland's testimony as tabloid fodder regardless of substantiation. This represents the least damaging option but requires tolerating narrative damage without attempting control. Probability assessment, 25%. Scenario 5 involves catastrophic cascade where publication triggers additional family members, former staff, or business associates to provide corroborating testimony, creating overwhelming credibility collapse that destroys remaining commercial viability of Sussex brand. Probability assessment, 25%, increasing substantially if scenarios 2 or 3 are attempted. The timeline urgency intensifies as the manuscript moves through production phases toward fall 2025 publication. Publishing industry sources indicate the book will release in September or October 2025, timed to capture autumn book buying season and position for holiday sales. This means galley proofs distributing to reviewers and media outlets beginning in July 2025, just 4 months away. Major media outlets will obtain advance copies and begin preparing coverage, creating publicity momentum that becomes impossible to contain through legal action. The Sussexes face decision points in rapid succession, whether to attempt legal intervention before galleys distribute, whether to pursue settlement negotiations that have thus far been rejected, whether to execute preemptive media strategy, or whether to remain silent and absorb the narrative damage. None of these options prevents publication, and most options accelerate publicity surrounding the very allegations they seek to suppress. King Charles faces a separate decision matrix regarding whether to maintain official silence per royal protocol or whether circumstances justify institutional response given the implications for his son and grandchildren. The palace has historically avoided engaging Sussex controversy, but Ragland's testimony directly contradicts allegations of institutional racism that generated substantial reputational damage to the monarchy. What emerges from this investigation is verification of a pattern that critics identified years ago but could not prove definitively without insider testimony. Meghan Markle constructed a victim narrative that served commercial and emotional purposes, using family members as props when they validated desired storylines and discarding them when they complicated those narratives. Her mother, Doria Ragland, served as the key validator, the Black parent whose presence at interviews and public events provided credibility to racism allegations and family abandonment claims. Now that same validator has determined that her daughter's dishonesty has exceeded tolerable boundaries and that truth-telling matters more than maintaining family loyalty to someone who has betrayed everyone who enabled her success. This represents the most dangerous development for the Sussex brand because it removes the foundation beneath every major narrative element. If Meghan's own mother testifies that the racism allegations were exaggerated, that the family abandonment narrative was fabricated, that the financial victimization was theatrical performance, and that the mental health crisis was strategic deployment rather than genuine suffering, then nothing Meghan has said retains credibility. The commercial consequences extend beyond content deals to potential legal exposure for fraud in connection with foundation operations, business partnerships predicated on false representations, and potential immigration consequences given that visa applications require truthful disclosure. This investigation has documented the specific allegations contained in Doria Ragland's forthcoming manuscript, established the credibility of those allegations through multiple verification streams, analyzed the legal and commercial consequences for all parties, reconstructed the timeline showing relationship deterioration that motivated the project, and evaluated the scenario outcomes as publication approaches. Now I want to hear from you. Type publish if you believe Doria Ragland is justified in telling her truth, regardless of damage to her daughter. Type loyalty if you believe a mother should protect her child even when that child has been dishonest. Type waiting if you need to see the actual manuscript before forming judgment. Your response matters because it reflects how millions will react when this book reaches shelves in fall 2025. If you want to follow every development in this story as galleys distribute, as Meghan's legal team responds, as additional family members potentially corroborate Ragland's testimony, and as the commercial consequences unfold across Netflix, publishing, and royal relationships, you need to subscribe and activate notifications immediately because this story will dominate news cycles for months. Because what we have examined tonight addresses only the family relationship dimension of Sussex credibility collapse. The next investigation explores something even more fundamental, something that goes to questions of royal succession and legitimacy itself. The evidence regarding the Sussex children and the circumstances surrounding their births has now reached critical mass, with Ragland's testimony providing the final piece of a puzzle that asks whether Archie and Lilibet are actually who we have been told they are. And what that evidence reveals will shock you. I am George Will, and I will see you in the next investigation.